You're wondering, what is this episode going to be all about? Well, if you haven't read the description, what this episode is, it's a deep dive Q&A episode. What does that mean? That means all of the most commonly asked questions that I hear from clients in session and in group sessions. I wanted to do this episode to really hone in on those questions, and that is really important because there are so many people that ask all of the same questions when they're dealing with pet loss or anticipating pet loss, and really going a deep dive into these questions and giving you the answers is something that I've wanted to do for some time now. But yes, I'm delighted to be able to do this episode. And I suppose without further ado, I will start with the questions. And some of these questions have come through from question boxes that I have posted up on Instagram. Some of these have been questions that have been commonly asked during client sessions or group sessions or emails, any kind of communication. So some of these are the top questions. Now, I won't be able to get to all of them, of course, but that might be an opportunity for a second deep dive Q&A episode. But we'll get going with episode 1 first. Probably one of the most commonly asked questions is, why does pet loss hurt so much? And I get asked this quite a lot. The death of a pet often produces incredibly powerful emotions. So I'll just say that again. The death of a pet produces incredibly powerful emotions. Those emotions attached to grieving the loss are normal, but society's treatment of the grieving pet, parent or guardian is not normal, unfortunately. A pet has often died and is treated as a discounted kind of loss or a disenfranchised grief. So this word disenfranchised grief means that society does not recognise this as a loss. It's not valued in society. The closest thing that all of us experience, I believe that all of us experience, to unconditional love is that we receive from our pets, that unconditional love, which is incredible, as you all know. But society and people that don't get it or understand, they continue to drive grieving pet parents and guardians and their feelings underground, and people are buried for fear of being considered as weak. And this is particularly prevalent in the workplace. The depth of the emotional pain that we experience after pet loss is directly related to the power of that relationship, the power of the relationship that we had with our pet. That is just a profound sentence. The depth of emotional pain we experience after pet loss is directly related to the power of the relationship of our pet and the power of that relationship in our lives. I want you to know that all grief is experienced at 100% your way, 100% your own unique way. There are no people that half grieve. So the deep sense of grief experienced by some pet owners or guardians or parents is beyond what many other people can contemplate or understand. And what I wanted to touch on is recovery from that pain caused by the death of your pet. As with all other losses, must include the process of discovering and completing all unfinished emotional business, discovering and completing all unprocessed grief, unresolved grief. So something else that I wanted to touch on is those emotional bonds that we form with our pet, these quite often exceed bonds that we form with other people in our life. Many people never think of them as pets. Rather, they think of them as a special companion, best friends, even family members, even as an animal child. And that's okay to say. I'm not judging. There should never be any judgment. A pet is usually 100% all of the time your confidant, with whom you share everything without the fear of it being repeated to others. It's safe. The secrets are safe. The love expressed with a pet is often expressed as complete acceptance, in that unconditional way. So often when a pet dies, disappears, needs to be rehomed, needs to be given away, that loss can be devastating. All of the ways of loss can be devastating when it comes to pet loss. The major problem that you may face is how pet loss is just completely unrecognised, like I mentioned, disenfranchised grief. They are these gorgeous beings that are with us through life's ups and downs. And when we experience the loss of these beings, it can leave a massive, significant void in our lives. And then the grieving process can be further complicated by feelings of guilt or responsibility, or the need to make the difficult end-of-life decisions. Those are a ton of reasons why pet loss hurts so much. And that is such a common question that I get asked. But moving on to the second question, which is something that I touch on quite often with one-to-one clients or clients in my groups. It would be, how long should you grieve after the loss of a pet? That is such a common question. The grieving process for pet loss is highly unique and individual and can vary in duration. So factors such as the depth of the bonding connection, the circumstances surrounding your pet's death, was it an accident, was it unexpected, sudden, so on, and your personal coping mechanisms can often influence the length of your grieving period for your pet. Often some people find solace within weeks or months, while others may take a year or more to come to terms with the loss. It's really important here to remember that there is no, and I will repeat, there is no set timeline or time limit for grief. And what's important is to give yourself that space and compassion needed to process those difficult emotions. Seeking support from family, friends, a safe person, and I always say this to my clients, in inverted commas, a safe person is somebody who you feel completely comfortable talking to, who you know will not analyse, criticise, question or judge you in a way that is hurtful. So seeking that support from a safe person, and if you feel that there is not somebody that is a safe person to speak to about your pet loss, then going further afield and looking for a pet loss grief specialist, a bereavement counsellor, somebody that's specialising in pet loss that can help you navigate the journey that you're on at the minute. Following on or from this question, how long should you grieve after the loss of a pet? This question often comes hand in hand with this, and I get asked this quite a bit. Sometimes in a way of, Louise, I don't know what stage I'm in now in my grief journey. I mean, I don't know if I've been through all the stages of grief. Can you help me answer that question? And there is a great way that I'm going to answer this question. There are so many people that are confused about the stages of grief. And this has gone on for so many years. Even myself, up until I started educating myself about grief and began my own grief journey, I did not realise the truth of the stages of grief. But what I will do is I'm going to read out an excerpt from the Grief Recovery Handbook. This is from the Grief Recovery Institute, this book, and these principles are what I work from when I educate clients and support clients through their grief journey. So many people are familiar with the pioneering work of Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who identified 5 emotional stages that a dying person may go through after being diagnosed with a terminal illness. She identified those stages as denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. One result of Dr. Kubler-Ross's work is that many people now tend to apply the concept of stages to other aspects of human emotion. Grief, which follows death, divorce, and other losses, should not, however, be regarded in terms of stages. The nature and intensity of feelings caused by a loss relate to the individuality and uniqueness of the relationship. While Dr. Kubler-Ross's contributions brought heightened awareness about the process of dying, her work has been accompanied by some unfortunate collateral damage. Many people, professionals, and the general public alike have attempted to apply her stages to the emotions that arise after a loss. She identified denial as the first stage that follows notification of a terminal illness. Absent other helpful information, her work has often been misinterpreted to imply that denial is also a stage that a person experiences following the death or divorce. In all of the years that the Grief Recovery Institute has been helping grievers, we have yet to be approached by someone who is in denial that a loss has occurred. The first thing they say to us is, "My mother died," or "My dog died," or "My wife divorced me." These statements reflect absolutely no denial that a loss has occurred. That is such an important part of information when it comes to talking about the stages of grief. And really, this can be something that is controversial because many of us have grown up thinking that. And I did, even when my dogs passed away. I remember my dad saying, "You're going to go through all of the stages of grief, Louise. It's going to be okay." And I remember feeling really confused, particularly with the denial stage. I was like, I'm not in denial. I know exactly what happened. I was there. I saw it. It was just, I wasn't in any denial. So I said, well, have I skipped that stage? So I was asking myself questions over and over again. But yes, so the answer to that kind of multiple question is that there is no timeline for grief. It is individual and unique to every person, and they experience it 100% their own way. And also, there are no stages of grief. Those stages, those were not supposed to be applied to people experiencing a loss. They were supposed to be applied to people that were dying from a terminal illness. So the next question is, somebody asked me this on social media. So Louise, pet memorials, what are some ideas? What are some of the ways that we can honour our pets? We can remember our pets, memorialise them. And I have jotted down a good extensive list of some ideas for all of you that are wondering what you can do to memorialise or honour your pet. First of all, there are keepsake necklaces, which are a beautiful idea. These necklaces can contain your pet's ashes, they can contain your pet's fur, or anything like that within the necklace keepsake. People often sometimes get rings engraved with their pet's name as well, or bracelets. That's a lovely way. There is another item which is called a memorial jar. These are small, quite small glass jars with a lid on them, and you can use these to contain your animal's fur or the ashes after your pet has been cremated, or any other kind of item that you want to pop in there, which these are really cute. You can carry these around with you in your handbag, in your pocket, just to feel that sense of connection still, which is a beautiful idea. They're gorgeous. Another idea are engravings. So things like key-rings, necklaces, kind of a picture, engraved picture on like a stone or a slate. You can kind of engrave the picture of your pet and then you put the name underneath and so on. So these kind of engraving ideas, these are gorgeous. I have these myself on some key rings of my 2 dogs, and kind of hang it in a place in my car that when I'm driving along I can glance and see the engraving of the 2 dogs on the key ring. And it's so special. They're gorgeous and they're a lovely idea. Pet portraits by artists. These are super, super popular. I have 2 myself, and you may be waiting a few weeks or even a couple of months to get these done, but wow, absolutely incredible. There are so many artists out there. A simple search on Instagram can bring up pet portrait artists or pet portraits, anything like that. Kind of a search can bring up so many options, or even Google or Etsy, of course, as well, to search that. They can really highlight your pet's little, just all the little things about your pet, the way the fur fell on the ear, or all of those tiny little unique parts of the way your pet looked. It's just such a beautiful memory to have framed in your house. So that's coming from me, where I'm looking at the 2 portraits right now as I'm speaking to you all, and they're just so special to me. I would bring them everywhere if I could. Another one would be paw casting before cremation. So this is something that's relatively kind of new, actually, that I've seen in Ireland anyway. It may not be new where you're from, but making a cast of the paw, which is nearly a 3D effect, which is gorgeous. It can be made from, I would say, some kind of metal or brass, and I've seen them in a couple of pet crematoriums in Ireland that are doing them now for clients, and it's such a beautiful idea, and I would have loved to have that option when my dogs died. But there is that, and there's also the paw print, that they pop the paw down and you can get the paw print as well back in this kind of, I don't know what it's called now, my brain has gone blank, but like a cement kind of a thing that it creates the paw print, and then it hardens over time, and you get to bring that home as well afterwards, which is a lovely idea. The pet crematoriums organise that also very often. Another one that is quite unusual and I think is a gorgeous idea is a digital photo frame, which can show slideshows. This photo frame can be bought like in electrical stores or that kind of place. These frames can more often than not be connected to Wi-Fi. They can even be connected to Alexa or Google. And we, having a big slideshow album of your pet that you can look at in your living room or in your bedroom is something absolutely gorgeous as well. And some of them come with audio, so if there are a couple of videos in the slideshow, the videos will come up with sound, which can be quite absolutely unique and amazing. These photo frames are fantastic. Another pet memorial item would be a pet pillow or a cushion. There is an avid podcast listener that has messaged me all about this. She had a beautiful pet pillow made up, and it's beautiful of her dog, and she often hugs this or brings it to bed, or it can be wonderful for people that are feeling that tangible aspect of the relationship, that physical aspect is gone. But having a pillow that is whatever size, they can come in different sizes if it's on the larger side, with a picture, like a colour picture printed of it, of your pet on it, kind of shaped like your pet as well, can be absolutely amazing, can bring so much comfort as well. You can also kind of get these custom crocheted pet plushes, as I would think that they would be called, but they would crochet the pet from a picture of your pet, and it's a gorgeous idea. And you can also get these plush pet kind of teddies, like a large kind of teddy that look extremely like your pet, and there's so many options there that people find really comforting. That tangible feeling of hugging it, squeezing it, holding it, even when in the middle of grief, crying into this pillow or teddy or plush teddy. It's just something that's really, really special, and it's an amazing option out there as well. Another way is something that I spoke about recently on my Instagram stories, is going old school and back to basics and creating a scrapbook. Creating a scrapbook is such an amazing idea. First of all, everything is digital now, which is great. But going to the photo shop and printing out those photos from your phone of your pets can be something that can really help in the grieving process. And I speak from my own personal experience. I did this. I just went to a craft shop. I bought a scrapbook and that had all empty pages, and I was like, okay. I printed off a ton of photographs, and I got the scissors and I got the Pritt stick and the glue, and I started to snip and cut and create these beautiful collages of photos of both of my dogs on each page. And if there was a photo shoot done at a beach or something of a full day of photos, I might make a full collage of that day and put the date down and write a note, writing how I remember feeling on the day and how much joy and laughter it brought me and how happy my dogs were and full of joy. Writing little notes in different sections of my scrapbook was really healing for me and helped me to bring those fond memories, those joyful memories, up to the front of my brain. It made room for the rest of the relationship to come into my memory again, because at that stage all I could think about and ruminate over and was tormenting me was the last few days that I had, like particularly the last day that I had with my dogs, that I couldn't get out of my mind. So doing that scrapbook, absolutely incredible. I got to write on it, I got to stick the photos, I got to make collages. It was emotional, it made me smile, there was all of the emotions, but I would highly recommend it just from my own personal experience. Back to basics, back to arts and crafts, but it's amazing. Another thing that we can do to memorialise our pets is going to your pet's favourite place on anniversaries or special dates. So going to a place that your pet absolutely adored, that went bonkers, that loved going there. Making a little commitment to yourself to go there on the anniversary or a particular time of year that feels right for you. And even creating something new. For me, I created, you might have heard on previous episodes, created this new ritual, as I'd like to call it. And once a year I will drive up to Northern Ireland and I will hike a particular mountain up there, and I always feel close to my dogs when I do this. They were never there with me, but it's something that I have committed to do in memory of both of my dogs, to really step into that energy of the love, the unconditional love that they gave me when they were a part of my life. And I want to honour that every year, and I have done now for the last 4 years, and it's been beautiful to do that. So create a ritual, go to a place, begin an adventure in memory of your pets. That is something. Those are quite a good long list. I'm sure that there are tons more out there as well. But all of these, if you go to Etsy, etsy.com, and you can type in those headings like keepsake necklace, memorial jar, engraved keyring, paw casting, digital photo frame, pet pillow. If you type those into the search bar of Etsy, loads and loads of options will come up for you. Also, like a Google search or an Instagram search or anywhere else will help as well to bring up some lovely options for you. So another question that a client asked me actually in the last couple of months is, if I choose cremation, how do I know it's my pet's ashes that I receive? That question has been asked so many times, not just that one client, so many times. It is such a common worry for people. So before we get into the answer of that, what I do want to kind of touch on slightly is that burying our pets are sometimes not allowed in some countries. So I know in Ireland here that you may have to get permission from the local authority to bury a pet in your back garden. So pets can be buried on private property, but it has to be very far away from any source of water, and the burial has to be at least 2 feet down into the ground. So, and of course there's obviously other aspects to that. If the pet had been on very strong medication and all of that kind of thing, that would seep into soil. So there's so much to it. But what I found is it's often best to check out what's allowed in your country, in your local area, and chat to the local authority if that's something that you really want to do, the burial on your private property. But what is far, far more kind of popular now is pet cremation, and that question of how do I know that I'm going to get my pet's ashes back that are my pet's ashes. And it's a valid question. I would want to know that, and I'm sure many of you have asked that question. In my opinion, here in my country, it is best to kind of assess what way that the euthanasia is going to go, or even if there wasn't a euthanasia and it was a sudden death, if your pet died at home, or if there's home euthanasia, there's so many ways. So firstly, my advice would be, if your pet is being euthanized in the veterinary hospital or veterinary clinic, it would be best to talk through the options with your vet prior to that euthanasia appointment happening. Ask for the options that the vet clinic has, because sometimes the vet clinic will say that yes, we offer pet cremation and we can handle everything for you. You don't have to worry, and you can come back to the vet clinic after a certain amount of days and pick up your ashes, the pet's ashes. So what I often advise clients is to be very careful here with this option. And this is coming from love within my heart, that this option, it needs to be discussed a little more in depth. So there are some pet crematoriums that offer individual cremation, where your pet is put into the chamber individually on their own, and you receive back the ashes of your pet. And then the other option is some pet crematoriums offer group cremations at a cheaper price, that your pet is put into the chamber with other pets and ashes are received back that are the ashes of multiple pets. It's a sensitive subject, and I am completely aware that talking about this is sensitive, and I'm going as gentle as I can with this, but it's important to highlight this. It really, really is. Speaking about this is really important, and asking your vet those questions. And there may be an option also, if you choose home euthanasia. You could contact the pet crematorium or research this yourself prior, or ask someone to help you research as well. Your pet crematoriums in your local area, do they offer individual cremation? More often than not, a lot of my clients do want to receive their pet's ashes back and know that it's just their pet and not anybody else's pet's ashes mixed in with that. That is quite a commonly asked question. But arranging this privately with the pet crematoriums are a really, really good way to ensure that the individual pet cremation is completed and that communication is upfront and honest and very clear from the get-go, that this is the way that I would like my pet to be cremated. Can you tell me how many days I will receive my ashes back, my pet's ashes back? Sometimes you can go to the pet crematoriums and sometimes they offer, which is absolutely beautiful, and I've been to one as well in County Clare, this amazing pet crematorium, Peaceful Paws, but they offer a room, so it's almost like a goodbye room, which is beautiful, and they have the pet laid out in a wicker basket, and you get to have some time with your pet. There's soothing music on. You can be there for the cremation if you like. It is as open as possible. Some crematoriums offer this service, which is so unique and so wonderful, and it's so personal and private, and that's what's wonderful about it. So it really is worth it to research a little bit and look into it, and even if it is sitting down with your vet and say, I would like to request individual cremation of my pet, and really be clear with that communication. So there's definitely multiple options. You can drive your pet to the crematorium and you can pick up the ashes yourself. The pet crematorium can come to your house and collect your pet and return your ashes to your house. There are so many options, but being honest, clear, and communicating exactly your needs surrounding your pet's cremation is what is highly, highly important here. So I hope that I have really answered that question as best that I can. The next question that has popped up in the question box on Instagram is, how do I know what to say to someone when their pet has died? And this is from a follower who hasn't experienced their own pet loss as of yet, but is a little bit concerned as to what to say to somebody close in their life that their pet has died. They're afraid they're going to say the wrong thing, put their foot in it. And I love that I'm going to be talking a little bit about this question because I don't often get the chance to. So this is a great one. Knowing what to say when someone's pet has died. Well, first of all, it's okay to ask what happened. It's okay. Like, the truth is that most grievers really want to talk about this. It is in retelling that story that they have an opportunity to express some of their emotional pain that they are already suffering inside with. And really, another way to help, or knowing what to say, is just to listen without analysis, without criticism, without judgment. People that are grieving are not broken and don't need to be fixed. More often than not, all they need at the outset is for someone just to listen, is just to be that listening ear. Sometimes we say, I just don't know what to say. It's okay to actually say that to the person. You can say out loud to the person, I don't know what to say. And you know what? That's okay. No one taught us what to say or how to help. In fact, most of what we were taught isn't helpful and can even be harmful. So sometimes it's okay to say, you know what? I don't know what to say, but I'm here to listen. Another thing that might be helpful to say is, I can't imagine how you feel. Even if you have experienced a parallel or similar loss, you can never know exactly how someone else feels. That's because every relationship is unique. You only know how you felt when your loss occurred. It's really, really important. So saying the words, I can't imagine how you feel, even if you have experienced pet loss. Saying things like your feelings are normal is really going to be helpful for somebody experiencing pet loss. Grief is a normal and natural reaction to any change someone experiences in life, any change at all. Saying take all of the time that you need can be a helpful statement. Try not to push them to talk or ask for specific information. Simply let them know that you care and that you are there for them, and try to check in regularly with them, even weeks, even months after the pet loss. They may ask you if you have ever been through something like this. And when they ask you a question like this, it's not time to tell the story of your personal grief in the greatest respect. But if you are trying to support them, you need to give them a brief answer, but then invite them to share more about their story, share more about their loss. That can be something that's really hard. You can briefly share, yes, I experienced my own pet loss and it was devastating. And then you can ask them, but I'd love to know more about how you're feeling. share with me how you're feeling right now. And you know what? At the end of the day, sometimes a hug is the best gift that you can offer to somebody who is grieving the loss of a pet. A hug. It's so simple. I hope those tips were helpful for that person that wrote in about that question. Another question is how to deal with hurtful comments following pet loss. Such a common question that clients ask me. It's a minefield. It is such a minefield. It really is. But like, people might say things like, it was only a pet, or you can get another one. These are the most common hurtful, kind of unhelpful comments that we might hear. In my opinion, the best way to deal with this is just to be honest. Be as honest as you can. Let the person know you understand that they want to help, but that what they're saying is hurtful to you. They might not know the connection that you had with your pet, but try to explain this so they can understand what your pet meant to you, just to try and explain this to them. And remember, people, they want to help, and it often comes from a good place, but just don't be afraid to be open about your feelings. So I just, people mean well, and they want to help. They want to help you to feel better, but they may not understand that what they're saying or doing may be causing more harm than good. And often we are faced with these kinds of comments, and they can be really overwhelming, and we often retreat into ourselves and just say nothing. But being honest is really, really the best option for this, and trying to explain as best as you can the meaning of your relationship with your pet and the impact that has on your life. Another really, really common question is, how do I start to process my pet loss grief? So, very, very good question. And when it comes to this question, there's a couple of things that I would often say to clients. And the first one would be, give yourself permission to feel the pain. So giving yourself permission to feel the grief, to feel the pain, to try to be present with the pain. We are all excellently good at stuffing things down, suppressing, running away, keeping distracted, keeping ourselves so busy that we don't give our brains, our bodies a chance to feel the pain of grief. So it's really important to try to be present at some parts of the day with your grief as best as you can. Express your emotions. That's another one, to express your emotions, and to do this with safe people. And I say that again, like I said earlier, doing this with safe people is what is really important here. If you feel that you don't have a safe person to express your pet loss grief to, then searching for someone like a pet loss specialist, a bereavement counsellor, that you can really, really get that specialised support from in order for you to express your emotions in a non-judgmental space. Reaching for support while you are experiencing pet loss is super important, and that can be done in the form of searching for podcasts, joining Facebook groups, following pet loss pages on social media, having a one-to-one with the pet loss specialist or a counsellor or so on, reading books about pet loss. There are so many options for support. Turning to Google and searching for pet loss support is something that a lot of my clients have done. and it can be really, really, really helpful. There's quite a few podcasts out there. There is many books on Amazon. There are so many options to help you feel validated in your grief. Another one would be to establish a routine. When we experience pet loss, everything goes out the window. Our routine goes haywire, and trying to stick to as much of a routine as possible will be really helpful while you're grieving the death of your pet. And this is not about distracting ourselves, but we always had a routine when we had our pets, and always our pets were involved in that routine, which I fully am aware of. But trying to keep that established in some way, shape or form is going to be helpful for you to navigate life a little bit better, even though life has completely changed for you. So just be gentle on yourself, stick to it as much as you can, and try to do the things that you did before that created joy for you. Of course, that can be so difficult to do, but it's just to try to keep that established is what's important. Celebrate your pet's life. Here's another one. Celebrating your pet's life can be done in tons and tons of ways, but one particular way is going to be really, really beneficial on a high level for you is that the word I love to talk about, journaling. Journaling is a way that you can celebrate your pet's life. I have a very in-depth guide, journal prompts guide that is a free guide that is always in my show notes underneath the episodes that you can download and you can work through. It's printable, you can write on it underneath each journal prompt. Going through each of these journal prompts, I've heard back from so many that it's been so helpful, helping them to process those difficult emotions attached to the loss of their pet, helping them to remember the joyful moments and memories, helping them to understand the significance of their pet in their life, the impact their pet brought to their life. What have they learned from the pet being in their life? So many amazing things. Of course, there's other ways to celebrate your pet's life. Getting in contact with friends, asking them, what's your favourite memory of my pet? And jotting those down in a journal, and getting everybody's thoughts and opinions of what their favourite memories of your pet were, which is a beautiful idea as well. And obviously going to places that your pet love to go and creating those new rituals as well, which can be in so many ways, and even planting a tree in your pet's memory in your back garden or anywhere for that matter. And that's another way to celebrate your pet's life. But there are many more which Google will often help with. So the last and final question, because I realised that this episode is on the longer side of my usual episodes, but it deserves this time. These are really, really important questions that so many people often ask me, so it's really important to get all of the information to you. The last question that I will answer is, will I ever be able to bring a new pet into my life? And it's a heartbreaking question, and many a time clients ask me this in floods of tears, because they often say to me, if it's a cat or a dog or whatever animal that they have lost, I am just a cat person. I've always had cats, I've always had dogs. How will I ever be able to bring a new pet into my life, Louise? And it's just, it breaks my heart when I see them searching for this answer, wondering, is this something that I will be able to do? And there is often that knee-jerk reaction of the urge to replace the pet that has died quite soon, after your first pet, the original pet, has died. And I speak about this quite a lot on social media, and in fairness, it can bring some controversial comments, but at the end of the day, I believe that no two relationships are the same. No two relationships are the same. And we really have this massive void that we want to fill because we live with our pets 24/7. We're responsible for them. And then, poof, it's gone. It's disappeared. Absolutely extinguished. It's gone from our life. And there's a huge void that we have this urge to fill, that we're like, well, I'll just go out and bring a new pet into my life, and it will heal my heart. It will get rid of my grief. It will help me to feel better. There's all of these notions and conceptions, and I'm not here to judge anybody. The difference is if someone has given themselves permission to grieve the death of their pet, and they have plenty of support around them, they were able to express their emotions in a healthy way, and they were able to do all of the things to process their grief and process their unresolved grief in their own unique timeline that is true to them, then amazing. Bring a new pet into your life. Oh, definitely, if you feel that that is the right time and that you are ready. But on the other hand, if you have been pushing down all of those feelings, suppressing them down, ignoring them, not wanting to cry, to feel the pain, to talk to people about it, if you haven't spoken to very many people about it, but you are in deep pain because you miss your pet so incredibly much, and you have said to yourself that I'm just going to get a new pet now, and everything will be fine, I'll feel better, I'll have comfort, I'll have unconditional love again. But how this can be a little bit damaging is, and I say this with love in my heart, is that trying to replace that relationship that you have lost without processing the grief is something that can be really, really difficult to do. So really, if you get a new pet, more often than not, you are comparing it, and that comparison of the new pet to the old pet, sometimes resentment can build. Sometimes you're really pushing to get that connection that you had with your original pet, but it's just not there. It's just not there with the new pet, and you feel like, maybe I've made a mistake, I don't know what to do, and this can be so hurtful, and my heart goes out to you if you have ever experienced that. So this is why the concept of working through your grief can bring you to a place where you can welcome a new pet into your life, but not running away and suppressing that grief. You want to get to a place, you have loads of love in your heart for a new pet, but you realise that, okay, maybe I have to work through this first. Maybe I need to deal with my grief first for before I contemplate bringing a new pet into my home. The term that I wanted to delve into a bit more around this topic is recovery from grief is possible. And the word grief and recovery are not often put in the same sentence because you just don't hear it, really. And really, because there's so much misinformation about dealing with loss, most people don't realise that recovery from grief is actually possible. So they think that the pain of the loss will always be with them. They believe that they have to tolerate the pain and learn to live with it. Or they believe that time will eventually heal their broken hearts if they just wait long enough. Neither of those ideas are accurate, but believing them to be true stops grieving people from looking for solutions. Fortunately, recovery from grief is actually possible, and lots of my clients have heard me say that over the course of the months that I have been supporting them. And you will be able to become emotionally complete with your pet that has died. So becoming emotionally complete, feeling like those unresolved grief emotions have completed. So you will be able to have fond memories of that relationship not turn painful. You will be able to remember your pet the way you knew him or her in life, and not just as you remember him or her in death. Completion of the unfinished emotions attached to this relationship will enable you to be open to another pet at some point in the future. You'll be able to have a unique relationship with your new pet. You will be able to follow the new pet, or allow the new pet to have his or her own individual personality and not be compared to the one that died. So one of the reasons we may think that recovery isn't possible is the fact that we don't forget the animals that have been important to us. There's often this additional confusion because we remember pets that have been so important to us. We have feelings of sadness, and many people think that their sadness indicates something is wrong with them. But sadness is a normal feeling in response to memories about pets that are no longer here. So there is a difference between sadness and pain. So there's a difference. And the method that I teach and that I use in my programs, my pet loss support programs, is the grief recovery method. And it will help you to deal with the pain caused by the death of your pet. And it will allow you to remember and have normal feelings of sadness and joy when you miss your pet. You know, working through your grief journey, doing your grief work, does not mean that you will forget your pet. It really does not mean that. You will still experience sadness, but that intense pain will have healed. So that is the difference. Wow, we're nearly at an hour, but I have gone into my deep dive and answered the most commonly asked questions by my clients, and a few of those that have been in question boxes on social media. But I want to thank you all for coming on this journey with me, and I really do hope that you have had some comfort from some of those questions being answered. And of course, you can always reach out to me if there are other questions that you have in relation to pet loss and so on. And you can contact me on email. All the info is below in the show notes. But thank you again, and I will speak to you soon.